Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama barakta ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilma ya muqallibul qulub sabbit qalbi ala dinik. Ameen. Surah Nisa, we will do the fourth part today, in which we will complete from verse number 32 till 46. ولا تتمنوا ما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسبن واسألوا الله من فضله إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما. Do not desire the things by which Allah has favored some of you over others. For men shall be a portion of that which they earn, and for women shall be portion of that which they earn. Ask Allah for His favors. Indeed, Allah is the knower of all the things. Now, verse number 33. وَلِكُلِّ جَعَلْنَا مَوَالِيَ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَالَّذِينَ عَقَدَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ فَآتُوهُمْ نَصِيبَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدًا. For each person we have appointed heirs of that which parents and relatives leave. Give the dues to those with whom you have made an covenant. Verily Allah is witness over everything. A narration of Hazrat Mujahid Rahimullah is reported in Malumat-e-Tanzil, Volume 1, page 420, in which Hazrat Salma Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu told Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, men fight in jihad whereas we do not. They also receive twice our share of inheritance. If we were men, then we would also fight in jihad and receive inheritance equal to theirs. On this occasion, the above verse was revealed. Certain commentators have reported that when the verse for a male shall be the like share of those of two females was revealed, the woman said, "We deserve a greater share because we are weak and men are strong. They are more capable of earning than we are." On this occasion, the above verse was revealed. According to another narration, when the above verse or verse of inheritance was revealed, some men expressed the desire that their rewards also be doubled. It was then that Allah revealed the verse, "For men shall be a portion of what which they earn, for a woman shall be a portion of which they earn." Allah indeed Allah is the knower of all of things. Allah decreed every injunction with perfect wisdom. He has placed every person in their unique situation, granted them individual capabilities. According to these, Allah has assigned different tasks to each individual. If every person was of the same gender, possessing the same capabilities, there would be gross imbalance in society. Success is the hereafter depends on a person's action and sincerity. Each person shall receive the rewards promised by Allah according to the level of his sincerity, whether the person be male or female. The instruction, "Do not desire the lot of others," refer to those matters that are out of one's reach. He should endeavor to compete with others in matters wherein he has a choice. However, his endeavors should be free of jealousy, boastfulness, and self-praise. The Quran encourages competition in good deeds. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Allah will record the other with the following two qualities as a grateful and patient person. One, he who looks up with those who supersede him in religious matters and attempts to emulate them. Two, he who looks at those less fortunate than him in worldly matters and show gratitude to Allah for giving him more." On the contrary, the person who looks down upon their lower than him in religious matters and in worldly matters looks at those more fortunate than him. Allah shall not regard him as grateful and patient. Narrated by Mishkat, page 448. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also reported to have said that the best of people are those whom Allah had given knowledge and wealth and they spent it in the right causes, joining family ties and fulfilling the rights of Allah. Then there are those whom Allah has granted knowledge but no wealth. They have the sincere aspiration in their hearts to do as the other group does if they also possess the wealth. The reward of this group is equal to that of the first group, narrated by Mishkat, page 451. Ask Allah for His favors. A person should keep trying to do that which he can and at the same time continue begging from Allah for His bounties. The tawfiq, ability, inspiration to carry out an action and to show gratitude are all from Allah's bounty. So too is His acceptance and the inspiration to do more. Since some women mention that they deserve a greater share because of their weakness, Allah says, for each person we have appointed heirs of that which parents and relatives leave. The specification of the various shares is placed on Allah's wisdom. As He had decreed, so should the estate be dissolved, for in this lies great good and benefit. Give the dues to those with whom you have made a covenant. This verse refers to the Mawlalul Mawalat. During the period of ignorance, people often made a contract with each other that if either of them had to pay a penalty, the other would assist him. When either one died, then the other would inherit from him as well. Both these people were referred to as Maulalul Mawalat. There exists a difference of opinion whether such a contract is valid in Islam or not. According to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, each of them may inherit from the other only if the deceased has no surviving relative, neither ashabul farais nor asabat nor zawail arham, even party has the opinion to annul the contract as long as neither has paid a penalty on behalf of the other. According to Hazrat Imam Shafi rahimullah and Imam Malik rahimullah, none may inherit from the others, even if there are no surviving heirs. In this case, the estate will be given to the public treasury. Imam Abu Jassas rahimullah writes that the above verse substantiates the contract of the Malulat Mawalat, and no other verse nor hadith has abrogated it. It is further substantiated by the verse, the uterine relative Zawahil Arham are more deserving in the book of Allah than the believers and immigrants. This is precisely in accordance with the ruling of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, since he is of the opinion that the uterine relative Zawahil Arham are more deserving than the Maulalul Mawalat, and the latter will only inherit in the absence of the former. Ahkamul Quran, volume 2, page 186. The majority of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum also accepted the validity of the Malulat Mawalat contract narrated by Madari Kut Tanzil. Okay, really Allah is witness over everything. None can hide from Allah, and He shall give every person his just dues. Now, verse number 34. الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فإذوهن واهجروهن في المزاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعناكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا. Verse number 34, and now translation of this verse is: Men are the leaders of women because of the virtue Allah has bestowed some of you over others, and because of what men spend from their wealth. So the pious women are obedient, and in the absence of their husbands are protective because of that which Allah has protected. As for those whose evil disposition you fear, advise them. Separate your bed from theirs and gently wrap them. If they obey you, then look for no excuse to persecute them. Verily, Allah is most high, the greatest. With regard to the circumstances of revelation, Hazrat Hassan Rahimullah has narrated the following incident. When a person once slapped his wife, she reported the episode to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed that she settle the matter by slapping him in retaliation. On this occasion, the above verse was revealed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then commented, "We had decided something, but Allah desired another." Asbabun Nazul, page 145. Men are the overseer of women because of the virtue Allah has bestowed some of you over others. This is the first reason for Allah's choice of man as the overseer and leader of the woman. Allah has bestowed men with understanding and insight by virtue of which they are able to get the depths and intricacies of matters. While many women are also able to accomplish this feat, the average woman cannot do it as efficiently as most men. If any difference has to taken, the man has the final say, and his decision is binding on his wife. The second reason given by Allah is because of what men spend from their wealth, since it is the responsibility of the man and to provide for his wife and family. It is only logical that they be obedient to him. It is not becoming of any woman to take from the husband and still disobey him. The pious woman realizes that she should be obedient to the order of Allah and obey her husband. So the pious women are obedient and, in the absence of their husbands, are protective because of that which Allah has protected. This means that they protect the wealth, property, and children of their husbands as well as their own chastity by not allowing other men to enter the house. This they should do because Allah had protected their rights by enforcing the dowry on the husband and enjoining on him to provide for her. Certain commentators interpret the verse to mean that she should protect these things because Allah has protected her. Hazrat Abu Huraira Raziallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that someone asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Who are the best of women?" He replied that she was the woman who pleased her husband when he looks at her. She is obedient to his over obedient to his every order and does not belie him with regard to herself and his property. She does nothing to please him. Narrated by Mishkat, page 283. Hazrat Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The person who possesses four things has accumulated the good of both worlds. Number one, a grateful heart. Two, a tongue ever involved in the remembrance of Allah. Three, a body that is able to endure hardships. And four, a wife who does not betray her husband with regard to her person and his property." Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the best of women who mount camels, Arab women, are those women of the Quraysh who are most compassionate towards their infant children and most protective of the wealth of their husbands. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 760. These make it evident that it is the duty of every good woman that she safeguards the property of her husband and does not spend it extravagantly. She should also rear the children and protect her chastity. A man is unable to remain at home all the time and has to be out to earn a living and for other tasks. On these occasions, the wife should ensure that she looks after all his possessions. She must see to the nurturing of the children and their education because without this they will be heading for destruction. As for those who evil disposition you fear, advise them if they still do not take heed. Separate your bed from theirs, and this should be sufficient for any decent woman. If she still takes no heed, then gently wrap them. In this farewell sermon, in his farewell sermon, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Fear Allah with regard to your women, for you have acquired them through a pledge between you and Allah, and you have secured sexual pleasure from them according to the Sharia of Allah. They owe you the right that none occupy your bed whom you due to natural possessiveness dislike. If they do so, then you may hit them in such a way that no bones are broken, that is, no injury is inflicted. You owe them the right that you feed the clothe them in a good manner." Narrated by Muslim, volume 1, page 397. It is apparent from this that a person may not hit his wife in any way that will inflict an injury. The author of Ruhul Mani, volume 5, page 25, writes that the three courses of action stipulated in the verse are mentioned in sequence. Each should be employed only when the previous one fails. If they obey you, then look for no excuse to persecute them. This verse advises more people who unnecessarily taunt and abuse their wives, finding the smallest excuses to punish them. Those who oppress the weak ones should bear in mind that soon they will have to present themselves before Allah, and really Allah is most high, the greatest. Allah exercises greater power over a person than any man can ever hope to exercise over his subordinates. This verse teaches the husband that he should, in the event of a dispute, advise the wife kindly, failing which he may separate their beds. Under no circumstances should he leave the house because such behavior is fraught with danger. Hazrat Mawiya Kushairiya Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu reports that he asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam concerning the rights of women. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, "Their rights are that you feed them when you eat and clothe them when you clothe yourself. You may not hit them on their faces nor addresses them using bad words. Severe relations with them while still sharing the same house." Narrated by Abu Dawud, volume 1, page 291. A woman should be wrapped only when absolutely necessary, and then too without causing injury and without striking the face. Hazrat Ayaz bin Abdullah Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu reports that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam instructed them not to beat their wives. Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu later came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam complaining that their wives now grew bold. Since they were aware of the injunction, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then permitted it. Later, the women began remonstrating against their husbands. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Many women have approached the wives of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, complaining about their husbands. These men are not the best of you. narrated by Abu Dawood, Volume 1, page 292. The author of Ruhul Mani, Volume 5, page 25, writes that to endure the irritations of the wife is better than restoring to hitting her. Hazrat Abdullah bin Zama Raziyallahu Ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Do not beat your wives like people beat their slaves, for at the end of the day you will have to satisfy your passions with her." Narrated by Bukhari, Volume 2, page 784. This hadith serves to explain to the man that he is eventually in need of his wife. It seems ridiculous that at one instant he is beating her and the next instant he is making love to her. The wife will also lose respect for him, thinking that he treats her kindly sometime and at other times he behaves worse than a beast. The author of Ruhul Mani then makes mention of four reasons that may warrant a man rapping his wife. They are: 1. If he refuses to beautify herself for him; 2. If he refuses to cohabit with him when he calls without reason; 3. If he refuses to perform her first salah or to bath; 4. If he goes out of the home without a valid excuse. He may also rap her for any reason, another reason similar to the above. Now, verse number 35. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا إِنْ يُرِيدَا إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيمًا خَبِيرًا. If you fear a breach between the couple, then appoint an arbitrator from his family and an arbitrator from her family. If they both desire reformation, Allah will reconcile them. Verily, Allah is all knowing, mindful. If disputes arise between two acquaintances, one can well imagine the situation between a couple who live together day and night. These are inevitable. The sensible couple will resolve these between themselves as if nothing has transpired at all. However, it may occur that matters deteriorate to such an extent that a third party needs to step in the resolve the matter. Allah has indicated towards this state of affairs in the above verse. If you fear breach between the couple, then appoint an attributor from his family and an attributor from her family. These two will listen to both sides of the story. They should then advise the one who is at fault and do their best to resolve the dispute. They should not do or say anything that may aggravate the situation. If their intentions are sincere and they truly desire that the couple harmonize, Allah will see to the rest. As He says, if they both desire reformation, Allah will reconcile them. If any of these involved distort the situation in any way, they should bear in mind that Allah shall take them to task for this, for verily Allah is all knowing, mindful. When a dispute drags on for a long time and the couple behave unjustly towards each other, they eventually lose interest in each other. To add fuel to the fire, the families of the couple step in to defend their own, and instead of reconciling the two, make the situation worse. Finally, the couple is so far distant that there exists no possibility of amendment. This often results in divorce. The procedure outlined by Allah in this verse is best to curb any pending separation. For the families to insight the situation further is in contrast to the teachings of Islam and will result in grievous consequences in both the worlds. Now I'll recite from verse number 36 till 40. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب ما كان مختالا فخورا. Worship Allah, ascribe none as partner to Him, and show kindness to partners, relatives, orphans, the destitute, near neighbors, distant neighbors, close associates, travelers, and those in your possession. Verily, Allah does not like the one who is proud and boastful. للذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله وأعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا. Those who are miserly instruct others to be miserly and conceal what Allah had conferred on them through His bounty. We have prepared for the disbelievers a disgracing punishment. Verse number 38. وَالَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَنْ يَكُنِ الشَّيْطَانُ لَهُ قَرِينًا فَسَاءَ قَرِينًا. Those who spend their wealth to show people and do not believe in Allah nor in the last day, the one whose friend is shaitan, then he is the worst of friends indeed. وَمَاذَا عَلَيْهِمْ لَوْ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَأَنْفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِهِمْ عَلِيمًا. What harm will it do them if they believe in Allah and the last day and spend of that which Allah had provided for them? Allah is ever aware of them. Verse number 40. Inna Allaha la yazlimu mithaqa zarratin wa in taku hasanatan yuzaifha wa yu'ti min ladunhu ajran azima. Undoubtedly, Allah does not even oppress the weight of an atom. If it be a good deed, He shall multiply it and confer from His side a tremendous reward. Worship Allah, ascribe none as partner to Him. Allah has created man to worship only Him and reminds him of this responsibility time and again in the Quran. The greatest form of worship is belief in Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, and this is annihilated by shirk. Therefore, Allah constantly warns man against shirk. Thereafter, Allah reminds man of his rights towards fellow men. The first to receive mention are and show kindness to partners. The same object is repeated in Surah Baqarah, Surah Anam, and Surah Asra, Surah Bani Israel. This includes serving them, elevating their burdens, and showing every type of obedience except when it constitutes disobedience to Allah. One may refer to the lengthy discussions to this subject in Surah Baqarah. Relatives, this was cordial ties should always be maintained with them, and this is emphasized in the Sharia. Much has already been mentioned with regard to this at the beginning of this surah. Orphans, the destitute. These have also been discussed in Surah Al-Baqarah. Near neighbors, distant neighbors, close associates, travelers. A person has to behave cordially towards all of Allah's creation. These few have been mentioned in this verse because a person associates with them on a regular basis. Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala anha reports that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Hazrat Jibreel Alayhi Salam advised so often to behave well towards neighbors that I thought that he will soon make them by hairs. Narrated by Bukhari, page 889. Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala narrates that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the best neighbor in the sight of Allah is he who fosters the best relationship and displays the best character towards his neighbors. Narrated by Tirmizi. A person once asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam how was he to know whether he was behaving well. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, when you hear that your neighbors are speaking highly of you, then you have done well. If you hear that your neighbors are speaking ill of you, then understand that you have done wrong, narrated by Mishkat, page 424. A hadith reads that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, "The person who believes in Allah and the last day should not inconvenience his neighbors. The person who believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent." Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 889. According to another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "I swear by Allah that he is not a mu'min. I swear by Allah that he is not a mu'min. I swear by Allah that he is not a mu'min." When someone asked to whom he has referring to, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, "The person whose neighbors are not safe from his evil." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned that the person whose neighbor is not safe from his evil shall never enter Jannah, narrated by Muslim, volume 1, page 50. Many people, despite being particular about their nafal devotions, do not pay heed to fulfilling the rights of their neighbors. Although this is more important, Hazrat Abu Huraira radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu reports that someone inquired from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding a certain woman who was known to be very meticulous in her worship by performing excessive salah, fasting, and charity. She, however, used to hurt her neighbors with her tongue. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied that she was destined for the fire of Jahannam. The person then continued to inquire about another woman who, although she observed few fasts, salahs, and given charity only some pieces of cheese, yet she caused no harm to her neighbors. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied that she was destined for Jannah, narrated by Mishkat, page 425. Hazrat Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that she heard Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that person is not a mu'min who eats to his fill while his neighbor goes hungry, narrated by Mishkat, page 424. Although all neighbors need to be cared for, those who are closest receive priority when giving something. Hazrat Abu Darda radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "When you cook a meal, add more water to the gravy and consider your neighbors." Narrated by Muslim, page 329. Once Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha asked Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to which of her neighbors should she give a gift. He told her to give it to the one whose door was closest to her. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 890. The close neighbor referred to in the verse may also be interpreted to mean the neighbor who happens to be relative as well. This is reported from Hazrat Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He will therefore have a twofold right over a person. The associate referred to in the verse may also mean the person with whom one consult. Whatever they discuss should be regarded as a trust and must not be disclosed to others. Tales should not be carried. Some commentators have mentioned that the associate may also refer to a traveling companion. He must be treated cordially, he a relative or not. If there is a restriction in space, he should be made comfortable so that his journey be pleasant. He should neither be hurt physically nor verbally. The instruction in this verse also refer to behaving well towards those with whom one works, narrated by Ruhul Mani. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the best of companion is he who behaves best towards his companions, narrated by Mishkat, page 424. Hazrat Sa'il bin Sa'd radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu reports that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The leader of a party on a journey is the one who serves them. The one who excels in serving his companion cannot attain inaction superior to this unless he becomes a martyr." Narrated by Mishkat, page 340. Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu has interpreted the associate to mean the wife. This seems closest to the Quranic word. Narrated by Malumat-e-Tanzil. The author of Malumat-e-Tanzil, Volume 1, page 435, writes that the traveler referred to in the verse has been interpreted by most commentators to mean a guest. Whether the traveler is guest or not, he should still be treated warmly and assisted in every possible manner. This action holds much reward in the hereafter. And those in your possession, this refers to slaves who must also be treated amicably and their food and clothing duly provided. In no way should they be oppressed and should never be given more work than they can manage. Hazrat Abu Darda Raziallah Ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Indeed, these slaves are your brothers and servants whom Allah has placed at your disposal. So, the one who has a slave in his possession should feed him from that which he himself eats and clothe him as he clothes himself. They should not be given more work than they are capable of. If you give them more than they can manage, you should assist them." Narrated by Bukhari, page 346. Hazrat Ibn Umar Raziallah Ta'ala reports that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Whosoever punishes his slave for something that he is not guilty or of slaps him, then the expectation for this is that he sets him free." Narrated by Muslim, Volume 2, page 51. Hazrat Abu Bakr Raziallah Ta'ala narrates from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that a person who does not treat his slave well shall not enter Jannah. Narrated by Tirmizi. Hazrat Salma Raziallah Ta'ala narrates that on his deathbed, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam enjoined the performance of salah and cordial treatment of slaves. Narrated by Mishkat, page 291. Really, Allah does not like the one who is proud and boastful. This portion of the verse admonishes those who consider themselves above others and are intoxicated by their own airs. This subject is discussed in Surah Luqman and Surah Hadid as well. Pride and haughtiness are truly devastating diseases of the heart and are the cause of many sins. It leads a person to hanker after fame, to be boastful in his actions, to practice deviant customs upon the occasion of marriage, fearing what people will say if he does not do these things. Hazrat Ibn Umar Raziallah Ta'ala narrates that Allah will not look at that person with mercy who because of pride allows his garments to drag on the ground. Narrated by Bukhari, page 861. Hazrat Abu Sa'id Khudri Raziallah Ta'ala narrates that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "The lower garment of a Mu'min male should be in the middle of his calf, and there is no harm if it is between this point and the ankle. Whatever is below this shall lead one to the fire. Allah shall not took Allah shall not look at that person with mercy who allows the garment to hang below the ankle out of pride." Narrated by Abu Dawud, Volume 2, page 210. This incited above applies to all garments, be they trousers, longis, kurtas, etc. Amongst the advice that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave Hazrat Jabir bin Sulaim Raziallahu Ta'ala anhu was, "Guard against hanging the garments below the ankle, for indeed it stems from pride and Allah does not like pride." In this last hadith, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned that this action stems from pride. Those perpetrating the sin consider it degrading to wear their garments above their ankles. They will never dare walk in this way in public. This is a clear indication that they allow their garments, especially trousers, to hang below the ankle out of pride. Even though they deny it, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam narrated an incident of a person from the previous nation who, due to pride, walked again about with his garments below his ankles. The ground swallowed him up, and until the day of Qiyamah, he will continue being swallowed up in this manner. Narrated by Bukhari, Volume 2, page 861. Numerous evils develop from pride. One of these is when people refuse to accept the truth even after the error of their ways has been made known to them. They are adamant to practice the wrong and continue to challenge the truth. They consider it below their dignity to practice the Sharia and do not leave their sinful ways, fearing the reaction of mere mortals. Sahabi Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu once asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a person likes his clothing and shoes to be nice is the due to pride. The reply was, Allah is beautified and likes things of beauty. Pride is to challenge the truth and to consider other as inferior. Narrated by Muslim, Volume 1, page 65. Together with pride, boastfulness, and glorious attitude are also condemned in this verse. It is common for people to boast about their achievement, even if the praise is misdirected. They are proud of what they do, not realizing that whatever they have done has been conferred on them by Allah. They are merely the humble servants of Allah. It should never cross a person's mind that those people whom Allah has not bestowed with His favors are less fortunate than himself. Allah gives whom He wills and may choose not to give others because of His infinite wisdom. A servant of Allah should think that he is merely the humble slave of his master and never look down upon others. In this regard, the author of Ruhul Mani writes that the proud and the arrogant person does not consider his relatives and neighbors. He only blows his own trumpet and signs his own praises before them. In this way, he neglects his duties towards them and shows disregard for the injunctions of Allah to maintain cordial relations with them. Those who are proud never want to extend any help to others out of fear that they may match them. They desire that these people remain where they are so that they may never present any competition. A wealthy brother never likes to visit his poor brother, considering this below his dignity. His pride will always be an obstacle to the fostering of good relations. Those who are miserly instruct others to be miserly and conceal what Allah has conferred to them through His bounty. This verse is an extension of the last and continues to describe those who are proud and boastful. They neither spend on their relatives and the needy, nor do they allow others to do so. Those who do not like to spend for the sake of Allah grow to dislike the spending of others as well. Allah says in Surah Fajr, you never honor the orphan, never encourage others to fear the poor. You devour inheritance with a relish and love wealth with a very few deep love. So, verse number 17 till 20. Misers never show gratitude to Allah for what He has given them. Neither do they spend on His creation. They never think where the wealth has come from and that they owe it to Allah, that they spend in ways that He is pleased with. We have prepared for the disbelievers to disgracing punishment. The author of Ruhul Mani writes that disbelievers in this context refers to those who are ungrateful to Allah. The common meaning of kufr, disbelievers, may also be implied. He goes on to narrate that the Jews used to frequently visit the Christians and pretending to be concerned would advise them not to spend their wealth so freely, for they fear that their wealth will soon expire. They told them that the future was uncertain and they should rather conserve what they have. With reference to his Allah, with reference to this, Allah revealed the above verse. That is, those who are miserly instruct others to be miserly, till the verse. Allah is even aware of them. With this incident in mind, the common meaning of disbelievers is understood. Those who spend their wealth to show people and do not believe in Allah nor the last day. This verse is also part of the description of those who are proud and boastful. The verse depicting the punishment awaiting the disbelievers was mentioned incidentally. The only time when these people will spend in is when it earns them a reputation. They spend only so that people may be impressed by their wealth and heap praises upon them. If they believed in Allah and the last day, they would not be so vain. Then they would have acted in anticipation of the rewards promised by Allah, knowing that the day will dawn wherein they shall receive the full of recompense of their deeds. The one whose friend is Shaitan, then he is the worst of friends indeed. The author of Rule Mani writes that this verse refers to Iblis, his comrade, and all those who pander to his wishes. The carnal passion are also implied, together with all the men and jinn who act deviously. They are described as the worst of friends because they are always encouraging others to sin, thereby leading them to the fire of Jahannam. What harm will it do them if they believe in Allah and the last day and spend of that which Allah has provided for them? Allah is ever aware of them. This purpose of this question is to censure the disbelievers and to intend concern within them about their plight in the hereafter. If they ponder a while, they will realize that their code of conduct is indeed incorrect and that they have no alternative but to adopt the ways of Iman. Undoubtedly, Allah does not oppress even the weight of an atom. Allah will never punish a person for something that he never did. In a like manner, no action of a person's will go unnoticed to by Allah. Every deed will earn its reward. In fact, Allah will multiply the reward many times over. The minimum reward for every action will be tenfold, as Allah says on Surah Anam. Whosoever does a good deed will receive tenfold the like thereof. Verse number 160. Allah may then multiply this 770, 700, and many more times over. Alas, people, alas, because the miserly world is before us, people hanker only after it, depriving themselves of deeds and subjecting themselves to sinful behavior. Verse number 41. فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. How will it be when we shall bring forth from mercy nation a witness and call you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to witness over all of them? This verse depicts the scene on the day of judgment. Every prophet salam, will bring forth his ummah and give testimony with regard to their beliefs and actions. Then the illustrious prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be summoned to testify about the veracity of these prophets. This episode has been dealt with within detail in Surah Baqarah under the verse, so that you, the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may be witness over the people and the Messenger a witness over you. Verse number 143. When the Ummas of the previous Prophet ﷺ refute the invitation of their respective Prophets ﷺ, the Ummah of Rasulullah ﷺ will be summoned to test to the truthfulness of these Prophets ﷺ. Then Nabi ﷺ himself will testify to the honesty of his Ummah. Hazrat Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam once asked him to recite the Quran to him. He said, "Should I recite to you when it was revealed to you?" Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "Yes, I enjoy listening to the recitation of others." Thereupon Hazrat Ibn Masud radiallahu ta'ala began reciting Surah Nisa till he reached the verse, "How will it be when We shall bring forth from every nation a witness and call you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to witness over all of them. At this point, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to stop reciting. He says that when he looked up, he saw that tears were flowing from the eyes of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Page 659 of Surah of Bukhari, volume 2. After recounting this hadith, the author of Ruhul Mani writes that if this is the condition of the witness that he weeps upon calling this scene to mind, what should be the recitation of those for whom testimony has to be given? Verse number 42. يومئذ يود يومئذ يود الذين كفروا وأسوا الرسول لو تسوى بهم الأرض ولا يكتمون الله حديثا. On that day, those who disbelieved and disobeyed the messenger will wish that the earth is leveled upon them. They will not be able to hide anything from Allah. This verse paints a picture of the severity and grief of the day of Qiyamah. The kuffar will wish that they are rather buried and that the earth was heaped upon them so that they will not have to endure the day. Nothing will be hidden from Allah because even their limbs will testify against them. At times they will swear that they never committed shirk, but when their limbs testify, they will be forced to admit their guilt. It is then that they will wish that the ground is leveled over them. Verse number 43. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون ولا جنبا إلا عابري سبيلا حتى تغتسلوا وإن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لامستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا سعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم إن الله كان عفوا غفورا. O you who believe, do not draw near to Salah when you are intoxicated until you are aware of what you say, and do not approach Salah when you are impure, except for the travelers till you bath. If you are ill on journey, returning from the toilet or from touching your woman, and you do not find any water, then use clean soil to wipe your face and arms. Verily Allah is most pardoning, most forgiving. During the initial stages of Islam, intoxicants were permitted. Hazrat Ali Raziallah Ta'ala narrates that he was once invited for a meal by Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf Raziallah Ta'ala. Wine was also served and everyone got drunk. When the time of Salah entered, they appointed him as Imam. He began to recite Surah Kafirun and read, I worship what you worship, instead of, I do not worship what you worship. This contorted the meaning of the verse, and it was on this occasion that Allah revealed the above verse, stating, O you who believe, do not draw near to Salah when you are intoxicated until you are aware of what you say. Narrated by Tirmizi. It was after this that the explicit verses were revealed before forbid wine. This is discussed in Surah Maida, where Allah says, O you who believe, indeed wine, gambling, idols and charmed arrows are impurities of shaitan. To abstain therefrom, verse number 90. According to another narration, Hazrat Asla bin Sharik Raziallah Ta'ala reports that he used to tie the saddle on the camel of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One night he was in need of a bath, but feared that he may fall seriously ill or even die on account of the extreme cold. When he asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam concerning this, the above verse was revealed. Thereby, tayammum was permitted. This verse, as well as another in Surah Maida, explain the practice of tayammum. It is gathered from both these verses that tayammum can be made in the absence of water. When a person is ill or when he has a shortage of water on a journey, it may substitute the obligatory bath as well as wuzu. When a person is in need of an obligatory bath, he is termed to be in the state of Hadith Akbar, and when in need of wuzu, he is termed to be in the state of Hadith Asghar. In the absence of water, salah may not be omitted. Allah has rather allowed the performance of tayammum, just as it is haram to perform salah while in the state of hadith akbar or hadith asghar. So too is it haram to delay performance of the salah till after its appointed time. The term impure denotes the state of Hadith Akbar while returning from toilet, referring to Hadith Asghar. According to Hazrat Ali and Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhum, the term touching your woman refer to the state of Hadith Akbar since this alludes to intercourse. Hazrat Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu ta'ala anhu is of the opinion that the verse means that when a person touches a woman, directly his wuzu will be nullified. This is also the ruling of Imam Shafi rahmullah and others. According to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmullah, wuzu will not be nullified by touching a woman since the interpretation of the verse is then explained by Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Hazrat Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would perform his salah at night while he was lying in front of him like a corpse. When he performed the witr salah, he would touch her feet. Nisai, page 38. This hadith substantiates the fact that wuzu is not nullified by touching a woman. Tayammum is permitted in three instances. They are 1. The absence of water, 2. When one is ill, and 3. When one is traveling. The details of these are explained in the books of jurisprudence. In brief, the following points should be borne in mind. 1. The absence of water does not mean that there is no water at the place where one is to perform salah. The person should search in the vicinity within a radius of approximately 2.5 kilometers. He has to acquire the water even if he has to pay for it. However, if he cannot attain the water despite its presence, that is, there is a well but no bucket, then he will be permitted to make tayammum. Second point, the person who is ill can also perform tayammum when the illness is of such a nature that water will aggravate it. 3. Tayammum may be performed if the water is extremely cold and there is no way to heat it. The person fears that by using the water, his illness may be intensified or a limb on his life may be lost in the process. 4. A traveler may also perform tayammum when he cannot find water. There are various rules governing this situation as well. That is, he should attempt to search for water or acquire it from his fellow travelers. If he can purchase the water, he should do so, even if the price be slightly higher than usual. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, I have been privileged above the other Anbiya with 6 things. 1. I have been granted concise speech. 2. I have been assisted with eye, that is, Allah has cast eye into the hearts of my enemies so that they desist from attacking me. 3. The spoils of war have been declared permissible for me. The entire earth has been made a place of worship for me and a means of attaining purity by virtue of tayammum. 5th, I have been sent as a prophet to the entire mankind. The previous Anbiya rahmullah were restricted to their particular nations, And 6. The coming of any other prophet has been terminated by my advent, since there shall be no prophet after me. Narrated by Mishkat, page 512. Although this particular hadith ties only 6 things, after a hadith mentioned many more. Hazrat Abu Dahar Raziyallahu Ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, pure soil will purify a woman even if he does not find water for 10 years. When he does find water, he should use it. Narrated by Tirmizi. The above verse and verse 6 of Surah Ma'idah describe that the face and the arm should be wiped with the soil. The hadith describe that a person should strike his hand on the soil and then pass these hands over the face. Thereafter, he should strike the soil again and pass them over each arm up to the elbow, as he would do in wuzu. It is imperative that the intention of tayammum be made when performing tayammum. Therefore, a person will not be considered to have performed tayammum if his face and hands become covered in dust without him intending it. Verily, Allah is most pardoning, most forgiving. Allah is so salient that He instituted the performance of tayammum in the absence of water as a concession to elevate the state of hadith asghar and hadith akbar. The method of performing tayammum for both state of hadith is the same. Now I'll recite from verse number 44 till 46. ألم تر إلى الذين أوتوا نصيبا من الكتاب يشترون الضلالة ويريدون أن تضلوا سبيلا. Have you not seen those who have been given a portion of the book purchasing misguidance and hoping that you deviate from the path? 45. Wallahu alamu bi'adaikum wa kafa billahi waliyyam wa kafa billahi nasira. Allah is well aware of your enemies. Allah suffices as a protecting friend and Allah suffices as a helper. 46. من الذين هادوا يحرفون الكلمة عن مواعظته ويقولون سمعنا وعصينا واسمع غير مسمع ورائنا ليا بألسنتهم وطعنا في الدين ولو أنهم قالوا سمعنا وأطعنا واسمع وانظرنا لكان خير لهم وأقواما ولكن لعنهم الله بكفرهم فلا يؤمنون إلا قليلا. Some of the Jews alter words from their context and say, we hear and we disobey, and listen in a manner that you do not listen. Distorting with their tongues and taunting the deen, they say, Raina. If only they said, we hear and we obey, do listen and do grant us consideration. It would have been better for them and more ethical. However, Allah has cursed them because of their disbelief, so only a few of them believe. Hazrat Ibn Abbas ta'ala narrates in the report of Darul Mansur, volume 2, page 178, that the chief of the Jew, Rafi'a bin Zaid, would frequent the gatherings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would contort his tongue when speaking and taunted the deen of Islam and its injunction. The above verses was revealed with reference to him. The learned scholar of the Jews learned from their scriptures about the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but altered the scripture to hide the fact. They did not believe in him, prevented their people from doing so, and chose to deviate instead. Besides this, they also left no stone unturned to lead the Muslims astray. Allah, however, puts the Muslim at ease by saying, Allah is well aware of your enemies. Allah suffices as a protecting friend, and Allah suffices as a helper. The Jews would distort their words when speaking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that the words would take on a different meaning, although not sounding defamatory. One of these words may Raina. In Arabic, it means that people be given consideration, that in the Jewish language it was a curse for death. This was already been discussed in Surah Baqarah, where Allah says, O you who believe, say not Raina. Verse number 104. They would say, we hear and we disobey. They made it sound as if they were saying that they heard what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to say, and that they would disobey anything contrary to what he said. In their hearts, however, they intended not to listen to what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to say. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to instruct the people to listen, the Jews would add the words in a manner that you do not listen. According to the author Ruhul Mani, this phrase would also have a good meaning if interpreted to mean in a manner that you are not listening to offensive things. This was the meaning that they would have wanted others to take, but their words were intended to actually curse the people so that they lose their ability to hear. Instead of adopting the wild behavior, if only they said, we hear and we obey, do listen and do grant us consideration, it would have been better for them and more ethical. However, Allah has cursed them because of their disbelief, so only a few of them believe. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.